So I've got three amazing kids, and one of them is Lucas. This is a picture of him playing with Legos. And I don't know if you can guess what this is, but I thought it was a tower, but he explained to me, no. This is a rocket ship. It can go underwater, and it can pick up dinosaurs. And he's so proud of this thing, right? And as he was sharing this with me, I was a little bit frustrated professionally. I had started this consulting firm, and we were going to companies and saying, we are going to help you come up with big, bold strategies, things that look like this. But usually what came out was, well, not big and not bold. And it was at that moment that I recognized Lucas in an entirely different way. And it occurred to me that what he had just done is exactly what these great innovators or accelerators that we aspire to, what they do. Is that they sit with the pieces they have and they stack them up in a different way and they build something that looks weird, and they're proud of the fact that it looks weird. And what this meant for me was that we had been approaching our challenge of getting people to think more innovatively from the wrong perspective. We had assumed that we had to learn something when actually this is something that is innate to us, that this is not only attainable, but this is natural. So I started studying these great business innovators and great social innovators and a new generation of innovators, trying to understand how can we relearn what they have continued to do naturally. And I think it really comes down to just one concept, one thing that they do. And they all talk about it in different ways. Like Gandhi says, first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, and then you win. What he's describing here is the disruptive innovation process, or the blue ocean. We have different names for it, but in order to change the world, you must put something out there that others will ignore and laugh at. I call this thing that they all do I call this the fourth option. I'll give you an example. In 240 BC, there was a general in China standing with 50,000 men on one side of the river. And there were 100,000 rebels on the other side of the river waiting for him to stop him from crossing the river. And he had three options. He could go home and explain to the emperor that he couldn't cross the river, but in 240 BC, what happens when you fail the emperor? He could wait until the rebels leave, but they're not going to leave. So he figures, if I can't go back and I can't wait, well, my only other option is to cross the river. And he's about to order his men to get in the water, but then he says, let me stop for a second. Let me ask, what is the fourth option? His men took sandbags and they built a dam upriver. Then when the water receded, his men crossed. They engaged the enemy, and then after engaging them, they turned around and ran back to his side of the river. And when half of the rebels got to his side of the river and half of them were still wading through the water, he released the dam, and then he turned around and fought. And now he used to be outnumbered 2-1. Now he's evenly matched 1-1. He used to be fighting uphill. Now he's fighting downhill. He used to be wading through the water. Now they're backed up against the river. He's turned a situation that he couldn't win into one that he can't lose. And he did it just by stopping before he jumped in the river and asking, what is the fourth option? So I started looking at how do people see fourth options. And there's actually a lot of study on this. People study chess players like Alexandra Kostaduk, the reigning women's world chess champion, and she'll challenge a whole town to play chess, and she'll go from board to board to board to board and then repeat her rounds, and she'll beat all of them. How does she do that? Well, the research says that really it comes down to the fact that she comes at the game with a different playbook. So I started studying the playbooks of successful companies and looking at how do they play the game differently than others. And it was interesting, you did see that they do play with a different playbook. And so I want to share with you 3 plays in their playbook that you can apply to find a fourth option in your life, in your community, in your career, in your business. The first thing that you see these more innovative companies, organizations doing is to talk more about moving early to the next battleground. Don't fight for today, but fight for tomorrow. Skate to where the puck is going, not where the puck is. I was visiting my mom in Bangladesh last year, and I got to meet this guy, Kamal Kadir. He was an MIT-trained engineer, entrepreneur, and he goes back to Bangladesh, and he sees that there is a man selling fish, and the man has cash, and he has a phone. And he says, Kamal thinks, this doesn't make sense. He shouldn't have cash and a phone. In Nigeria and Kenya, 80% of people use mobile P2P payment systems to transact. We should have something like that in Bangladesh. But the current systems are designed incorrectly, he said. The battleground is going to shift. In the current system, you have phone companies that start acting like banks, and they're not regulated like banks. And that creates all kinds of social and regulatory issues. In the future, the next battleground will be one in which there is a bank in the middle of the transaction. And he said, I'm going to build that next battleground structure. He creates Bcash, which stands for Prosperity in Bangla. And after 3 years, there are 13 million fishermen and farmers and everyday people transacting on his platform. It will next year be the largest mobile P2P payment platform in the developing world. So one thing that you want to do if you want to look for a next battleground is a fourth option is ask, where is the next battleground? Second thing you want to look at is coordinating the uncoordinated. Power comes from coordination. This is why birds fly in flocks, why fish swim in schools, why animals travel in herds. The old paradigm was where you had to control things. The new paradigm is that you can coordinate them. Many of the innovations that we admire today are really just examples of coordinating what's uncoordinated. There was an editor at Macmillan named Jean, and she was worried about self-published authors who were denied a book contract, and then would write a book, become famous, and then when Macmillan would go to them and ask them, we'd say, we'd like to publish your next book, they would say, well, we don't need you anymore. And this was happening with increasing frequency. And she said, if we can't find a way to create a platform to help self-published authors, we're going to become irrelevant. How can we coordinate self-published authors? And that idea became Swoon Reads. If you are a romance author, you can submit a manuscript. The community starts interacting with you, giving you feedback, building your fame. You can then get rated on things like heat and tears and laughs and thrills. And the top 20 become the top 10, become the top 3. It's like a Dancing with the Stars kind of competition. And at the end, there's one winner, and the winner gets what? A publishing contract with Macmillan. By coordinating what was going to make them irrelevant and being useful to them, they turned what was a threat into an advantage. Coordinate what is uncoordinated. And the third narrative that you see winning companies citing more often today is the strategy of being good. See, when I was in business school, I was taught that corporations existed to serve one master, shareholders, maximize shareholder value. But companies are waking up to the realization that this exclusive focus on shareholder value diminishes shareholder value over the long term because it creates resistance for your growth. A smarter strategy is one that helps shareholders by helping all stakeholders, the community, employees, the government, the country, the environment. If you can create the strategy that benefits all of them, that's the ultimate strategy because everyone wants you to win. It's like playing football, and there's no one on the other side of the field, and all the fans are on your side of the stadium. Everyone wants you to win. Like Best Doctors, which helps people get second opinions. A woman who's going blind is told that she has brain cancer. She makes an appointment for surgery, but she can call Best Doctors, and 2 weeks later, Best Doctors finds a doctor who says, give her these pills first and see what happens. She takes the pills, and now she can see. And that's what they live for. You go to their offices, it's all young people in jeans out to save the world, but the CEO is not ashamed to admit that they make big gross margins doing this work, that they're growing at 30% a year, that they want to be a billion-dollar business. In fact, there's less shame in that because the more they grow, the more good they're doing. So what I'm saying is that you remove the idea that you have to choose between doing good and making money. My cousin from Germany moved to New York to work for this company, Holsti, inspired by their manifesto. This is your life. Do what you love and do it often. If you don't like something, change it. If you don't like your job, quit. If you don't have enough time, stop watching TV. If you're looking for the love of your life, stop. They'll be waiting for you when you start doing things you love. Now, this says nothing about the products they sell, right? But this has transformed their business. Customers want to buy from them. Employees want to work for them. Investors want to invest in them. Suppliers want to supply to them. It creates that soft power, that moral force. So the third narrative that you need to look at if you want to find a fourth option is how can we create strategic power by pursuing a good strategy? I believe any one of these can reveal a fourth option for your business or your life or your community or your career. But imagine what happens when you apply all three. Before you jump in the river, you stop and you say, where is the next battleground? What is uncoordinated? What is my good strategy? And it'll start feeling like this again. It is what we know to do. It's what is natural to us. If you want to change the world, you just find your fourth option.